Yeah, I am joined by Fabiano Caruana, who had a really interesting finish to today's game against Hikaru. How are you feeling, Fabi?
Well, I thought it was a really nice game up to a point. And then, of course, my technique in that rook end game at some point was just, it was like another one-move blunder. Also in the Blitz game, I made a one-move blunder. I just missed that my c2 pawn is hanging in the opening. And also here, it's just I didn't even see that king g4 was an available square for his king. So I just thought the game's over. And then the king goes to g4, and I realized that it's a draw. So, yeah, it was like a total blind spot. And unfortunately, it kind of spoiled what would have been, I think, a very clean win, like a really excellently played game up until that point. And yeah, then I tricked him at some stage. It remained a bit tricky for him, but of course, it was definitely a draw, and not, I think, too difficult if he had chosen the right path. But yeah, he went down a path where he probably thought it was a draw, but at the end, yeah, my pawn goes to g2, my king goes to f4, and I just dominate his rook. But overall, of course, I'm happy with the result.
Mm-hmm. And did you find it challenging to kind of adjust, having just played this freestyle event, Fischer Random, switching back to normal chess? Is it hard to make that adjustment?
Yeah, now we play so many different formats. It's kind of strange. You always have to adjust to a different time control, a different tournament format, even a different starting position, which is, yeah, definitely to be playing an entirely different type of chess where openings don't matter, and then going back to kind of classical, but also with some rapid and blitz thrown in. I thought it was very difficult to play the blitz game first because you're not warmed up whatsoever. If you play a long classical game, you can you can warm up throughout the game without making major mistakes, but in the blitz game, you're just kind of thrown into it. First game is a blitz game, and yeah, that I thought I was very rusty, and probably he was also very rusty for the blitz game because it's really disorienting to just go straight into it. I think maybe if we switched around, we would have kind of built up to it a bit better.
Mm-hmm. And do you have difficulty adjusting from blitz to rapid to semi-classical too? Because usually most events don't feature that.
Yeah, I think this time control, like the semi-classical, is the most interesting because it feels like a long game, but you can't really approach it the same way as you would a standard game like a 90 plus 30, especially with the increment being less, because once you get to time trouble, it's much less forgiving. And we had this in another tournament years ago in Norway, where we had a 10-second increment. So you were kind of spending all your time at the start thinking you have all the time in the world, then you get down to a 10-second increment with no second time control, and you can never think again. Mm-hmm. And so really, time management in this semi-classical game is very, very important.
And did you do any specific preparation for this event or for your opponents in this event, or not so much?
I was looking at the guys a bit and what they're kind of playing recently. With Hikaru, it's very difficult because he doesn't play classical too often. And in Blitz, which is where he plays an enormous amount of chess, he has a very varied repertoire and doesn't have a very clear thing that he's going for. But some of the other players are very stable in their repertoires. For example, Wesley has a very stable repertoire. Ray also, who I think I'll play in the American Cup. So there was some kind of also thinking about the next event, and a lot of the players here are also the same there. So I have to potentially prepare also for what I might want to save for the next event as well. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting dynamic in that sense.
And you're currently in clear second place. You're going to play Wesley tomorrow. Any thoughts about that and what you're going to do tonight to prepare?
Yeah, okay, Wesley is a really tough opponent. We have an enormous amount of experience against each other. We've played for so many years, and not even years, right? I think we're already talking over a decade of chess. Even I think our first game, because we were just kids in the World Youth, it goes back 21 years ago. So mm-hmm. It's been a while. So yeah, we have a lot of experience. Of course, he's really tough, and especially in this format where I think one of his strengths is time management in general. He's usually very, very good with the clock, and it matters quite a lot in this format where, especially semi-classical, time management is playing a huge factor. And I think also he doesn't feel much pressure because it's kind of an event where we're playing for the money per game, but it's not like a qualification event or playing for a big trophy. So definitely the lack of pressure, I think, also plays to his strengths a bit because he can kind of relax and play his usual, just very high level. Mm-hmm. So I do expect quite a tough match, but nobody's easy here.
Okay, well, looking forward to tomorrow. Best of luck, and we'll send it back to the studio.
Thank you, Eric. Our congratulations. Fabi, whenever you take down the #1 seed, it feels good. But recap.